Hi there, welcome to Island Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Gemini energy. And we're going to do this 10 card spread, and then we're going to read it from a couple different perspectives. It's a general reading for one, a lot of different things going on in people's world lives, but mainly how people are harnessing their Gemini energy. And Gemini is air sign energy of the mind. It's about kind of our truth, what we love, what we want to manifest in our life. And, if we look back on our own life, we had different ideas of what we wanted to manifest and what we thought was living the dream life at different ages and stages of life. And in our more worldly, egoic nature, some people who are more about that could be being more about themselves or ego or image or status. We would say they haven't been enlightened to the truth that love makes it all worthwhile. And they might think those things are the answer and they go indulge in those things or make their life more about themselves. But love is kind of growing up and maturing yourself and not being just about yourself and working together with people in a just and fair way, tempering your ego and working together with people from love. And there's going to be some people in a world of duality, which Gemini represents that within ourself. There's going to be some people in the world that don't want to do love. You can get hurt doing love. Some people think love is an illusion, think everybody's creating an illusion, that everybody's more out for themselves. And then, there's other people who do believe in love and want to be in jobs, friendships, and relationships with people they love. So let's go see what's going on in Gemini energy. I view this as the overarching reason for the reading, which is the Two of Pentacles. In high vibe, the Two of Pentacles would be that you're balanced. You have your more worldly nature. The Pentacles in high vibe can represent truth and love. The truth is, we do have this dualistic nature within ourselves. It's like having the two wheels on the bike. Can we move forward in life having our more worldly nature, which can be these things of the world that we want to manifest, but it also can be our more base nature of being about ourselves, and also maintain balance within ourselves because we also have our more kind of hopeful, believing, loving, intuitive nature that that there's more to life than just us. And in the energy of balance is when we move forward most victoriously and successfully. It's like riding in a car and having all four tires blown up versus thinking one tire isn't important. And we have to acknowledge we do have our shadow nature, be aware of it. Hopefully our loving nature is loving and encouraging to our more fearful, insecure nature, to like being a good parent to ourselves so that we can keep moving forward in balance. And some people have learned that lesson and they're doing a very good job at moving forward in their life in a balanced way. Some other people could go back and forth. One day they can work together with people in a more just and fair and cooperative way, and the next day they're kind of maybe petty or pouty or bossy or controlling. They haven't learned to deal with their more dualistic nature. And the Two of Pentacles is Capricorn energy, and Capricorn, well, shadowy Capricorn is represented by the devil. So some people could be more shadowy, but they just try to present themselves as more balanced and kind of motivated to be just and fair and loving than they really are, but they're kind of juggling the truth. Other people are trying to maintain balance within themselves, but they really go back and forth within themselves. And in their Capricorn nature of themselves, they could be, again, kind of more about driven and motivated more by these things of the world. Capricorn is earth sign energy and how we view victory and success. And other people have kind of seen the truth of how things of the world can manipulate them and their lust and their greed and their pride and their ego, and they are doing a better job maybe at maintaining balance within themselves. At the center of the reading, the heart of the reading, is the Seven of Cups, which is Scorpio. High vibe Scorpio is about wanting more deep, meaningful relationships from love. Other people might, again, try to create the illusion that that's who they are, but they, again, could be. It's kind of like a juggling act that they put on, but really kind of an illusion, and they just could be a little more superficial and shallow. And at the end of the reading, we have the world, which a world card talks about learning lessons. You know, we've either really authentically learned some of these lessons and put some of our more immature ways behind us, but some people think they can just juggle the truth, create an illusion about who they are, that they really don't have to detach from some ways of being. If they're defensive, just present that they're not more defensive. If they're more immature, just create an illusion that they're not more mature. And they keep thinking things will work out the way they want. And, you know, it's kind of like growing and maturing ourselves, you know, to authentically go to a more mature or whatever stage of life is to keep freeing ourselves and learning these lessons, seeing through the illusion of the world, not let the world or emotional, you know, it's learning to master these things within ourselves, not let our mind control us, not let our emotions control us, not let our sexual nature control us and kind of drive our life. Learning how to work with these different resources we've been given, to work with them in a more balanced way. And high vibe energy, again, is about being free to live your more authentic truth, being free from the devil and all these things that can manipulate you. So what's going on in Gemini? We start out with the Eight of Wands. We have the King of Swords. And we have the Five of Cups. So the Eight of Wands can be that everybody is inspired in the King of Swords by their truth. At any given moment in our life, if people are 15 or 18, 25, whatever age they are, and however they view the world and what motivates and inspires them and what they think is just and fair, you know, people and the kings can represent just how people are presenting themselves in the world and the action that they're taking. So whether people are male or female, the kings can represent those people. The feminine figures can talk more about how people actually think and feel. So everybody wants to move forward and live their life in a way that they're motivated and inspired to live it, and that they feel is just and fair, that's aligned with their truth. And then we have the Five of Cups. Everybody could, and then we go to the Two of Cups. So everybody could want people to move forward with them in relationship, is what you could view the Two of Cups as being. You know, 18-year-olds are getting in a relationship with 18-year-olds, 25-year-olds hanging out with 25-year-olds, people hanging out with people that they kind of think are, you know, willing to be in some type of friendship, relationship, or workplace dynamic with them. The only thing is some people could want to move forward in something because they just want to feel better because of the Five of Cups, that something didn't work out the way they wanted, and so it's just looking to uh, move forward in something new. For some, just to create an illusion. Look, I've moved on. Look, in the Strength card. Look, I've gotten over that. But if they didn't really do the work within themselves to see the truth of it, other people were inspired to get to the truth of some things that didn't work out in their past. They don't want to repeat that same situation. Other people might have had something that happened that didn't work out the way they want, but instead of dealing with the truth of it, they just move forward in something else. Well, then they didn't see the truth, and they could be more likely to repeat that old pattern, and they might be thinking, you know, in the strength card, which is Leo energy, which can be about our ego, I don't have to deal with that. I can just I believe I can just kind of not deal with it. From the 2 to the 7 is kind of a way to handle the 5 of Cups. Like, but people could be inspired to indulge in things of the world. Like, I'm going to go drink. I'm going to go eat. I'm going to go gamble. I'm sure that will make me feel better. That will get me out of being sad. Well, sometimes people can do those things, but they can also just get in relationships with other people thinking, if I just get in a relationship with someone else, that'll be the answer. And so some people's vice is getting in relationships with people. Other people's vice could be drinking or something, right? And high vibe people work through to get to the truth. I want to work through that because I don't want to repeat that pattern. So I need to do this work to maintain balance. You can look at the King of Swords, Libra energy represented by the scales of justice, and the Two of Cups, kind of like the Two of Pentacles. And the Two of Cups is Cancer, the Two of Pentacles is Capricorn, and Cancer and Capricorn and the water signs and the earth signs are on opposite sides of the zodiac wheel. So it's about getting balance between emotionally, I could want these things in my life. In my 3D world, there could be things I want, and there could have been people I was in friendship or relationship with that I liked or I loved, but it didn't work out the way I wanted. So I need to maintain balance within myself to work through that past pain and heartbreak and that emotional confusion, temper my ego, and again, kind of get balance within myself. And Leo, also represented by the sun, and kind of the King of Swords about the truth. I need to deal with the truth of the situation. Because if I don't deal with the truth of the situation, I could just go get in a different job, friendship, or relationship, and that same thing could happen again. So it's kind of like, what wasn't I seeing the truth of? Where do I need to heal and grow and mature myself? What about the people I was in relationship with? The Eight of Wands is fire sign energy. I could have been more immature. Well, I'm not as immature as I used to be, maybe. Maybe I was attracted to someone and I took more action, more out of in my worldly nature being attracted to someone. And maybe I didn't really kind of get to know them to kind of see more what was going on with them in their life and where they were at in their life, and to see if they were over some past situation in their life, if they'd kind of really kind of work through that or not. The 5 of Cups, the 5, the 6, and the 7 is all Scorpio energy. Could I have gotten in relationships with people that don't seem to be more open to love? Because high vibe Leo can be being more authentically yourself versus kind of hiding behind your ego or your defensive nature. And if that's the case, maybe next time I meet someone and they seem to kind of be maybe more defensive and maybe more turn their back, in this person has their back turned to this, maybe again, maybe they haven't worked through some issues that make them not be maybe just more forthcoming, more seeming to be more balanced and willing to give of themselves freely, in relationships, seeming to high vibe Leo would be being more authentic. And, maybe the kings again can mean that people were wearing more of a false mask and kind of living more from their mind and their heart. And we could have gotten in relationships with people We could have been sad. They could have been sad. Needless, sometimes when we're looking for new friendships or relationships, it is because we're sad and, our friend isn't around anymore or we're not in a relationship with someone. It's one thing to move forward with people and get to know people and maintaining balance within ourself where we kind of don't indulge poor behavior in ourself or others. It's another thing because maybe we're kind of in our ego and more motivated by these things of the world that we want, that maybe we weren't wanting to see things clearly because we wanted to kind of be caught up in the illusion because we wanted to manifest these things in our life. So, it's like next time I can't get caught up in the illusion just because I'm attracted to someone, just because, you know, maybe really more getting to know people on an emotional level, tempering our own egoic, worldly, lustful nature. And then we have the Emperor, which can be about having learned all these lessons in life that all four aspects of me are important. In tarot, we have the heart, the mind, the 3D world, and our creative, passionate nature, that all four of them are equally important. Where maybe before people kind of did live a little more from their mind than their heart, and pride comes before the fall. And, in the face of anything like, oh, we could have gotten in a relationship with someone who we could have seen from the outset. Shadowy Eight of Wands, Sagittarius can be people who are more immature. And it's like, but they could be fun, but, and you hope, oh, they'll grow up. Everybody grows up and tempers their more immature nature, right? And then you move forward, but, that is the truth of who they are. But it's kind of like we didn't want to see the truth of it. If you meet people that have certain ways of being, that isn't kind of the truth of how you kind of conduct your life. So you meet someone, for example, say you're 30 years old, and you meet someone and they do seem maybe quite immature or reckless or full of themselves or sad or defensive or bossy or controlling or something, caught up in the world, really build their life about, what they own or what they wear or what they drive is the most important thing that defines them in a way. Um, if that's not your truth, why would we get in a more involved relationship with someone who that is their truth? There's a reason why they are that way. And they kind of did the debate within themselves. Do I think this is just and fair to act this way, be this way, think this way, treat other people this way? Yes. Or they wouldn't be that type of person, right? And so sometimes in our pride and ego, the fives can talk about change, that we think we can change other people. Oh, look, they're more immature. Oh, I'm sure I'll be a loving and encouraging person in their life. I'm sure they'll temper their more immature ways of being. It's like they may have no interest in tempering their more immature ways of being, or they would have maybe done that already. Oh, they're more defensive. They want to maybe be in a relationship, but they kind of really don't want to come out from behind their ego and more authentically, you know, be more vulnerable or authentic with people, and they could live more from their mind than their heart. Oh, I'll get in a relationship with them. I'm sure they'll change. And again, it's like accepting the truth, quit staying in denial of the truth. And when you meet people, when they show you certain ways of being about them, you don't stay in denial of the truth, because that's like shadowy energy. Like we wanted to juggle the truth. And it can be hard because if you're someone who is more inspired with the Page of Pentacles in reverse and the King of Cups in the upright, you could be someone in all three of your earth sign energies, your Virgo, your Capricorn, your Taurus. You're not more aligned with being more caught up in favor of things of the world. You're more tipped in favor. At the heart of the reading is the Seven of Cups, and I view the sevens as kind of the tipping point into one way or the other. And you're more motivated by love. So, of course, that's your truth. And so you could think, well, of course, everybody is more motivated and inspired by love. And if they're in relationships with people who are more inspired by love and are just and fair and are willing to temper their ego and be in a deep, meaningful relationship and put in work and effort to maintain balance in the relationship and are trying to make good decisions in their life and for other people, you just assume everybody else would be like, yes, I want that. But the truth is, it's kind of like when you were 18 or 21 and having people in your life, which could be like your parents or just older people in your life, who are like, why are you living your life like that? You should live your life like this. And it's like, oh, that's not where I'm at. I'm not going to live my life like that, maybe one day, but this is my truth right now. And seeing the truth that we all have to learn these lessons. And so we could meet other people in our life who are motivated and inspired by love, but they still could just be more immature, still live more from their mind than their heart, be more defensive to being a student of life, is what the Page of Pentacles can talk about, willing to learn lessons at any stage of life that we're at. Again, we think that way of living life is just and fair. We wouldn't be living our life that way. And while we're living our life at that stage of life, we don't have an interest in probably putting an end to it. The world can talk about closing out a cycle because we still love that stage of life. So we're going to keep doing it until some time goes by, and that can be years and decades, that we kind of don't want to invest in it anymore. Again, just like when we were 18, 21, and 25, was it great and we enjoyed it and it was fun? But some people knew they were ready to kind of move forward at whatever age they were, when it's like, I need to kind of put those ways behind me anymore. I need to kind of temper myself, grow up and mature myself, and I didn't plan to live my life like this forever. And it's all individual, kind of what drives and motivates us within ourself, the Emperor's Aries energy, which is about the self, and we all have our own truth. We all at different times kind of get inspired within ourselves to kind of love and believe in ourselves, to become independent of an old cycle or way of living life. And sometimes, though, we get in relationships with people and we kind of think we're maybe on the same page, and then we find out we're not. And sometimes we were kind of on the same page, but then as time goes by, one person could be ready to move forward in life a little differently, and they don't want to keep repeating some pattern. And they could be kind of sad because, that's high vibe energy, is continuing to give birth to new versions of yourself. Kind of work through your more immature nature, work through your more defensive nature, your prideful nature, past pain and heartbreak, codependent nature maybe with the Page, and then this is the King of Cups. Emotionally kind of grow up and mature yourself. Be willing to be a student of life, to, again, there's kind of this Bible verse. I don't know it exactly, but it's something like, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. But as I grew up, I put away my more childish ways of being. And some people have done that at stages throughout their life, and they kind of detach from more immature ways of being as they grew up through life. Other people could have a harder time with that, and they might like to, it's kind of more just like hiding it. Don't show people, it's like juggling. Don't show people that you're more immature or stubborn or prideful or like to be indulged or whatever, and have it be more about you. They kind of learn, oh, people don't like that. Oh, okay. But it's like they don't see the truth as to why. And they could also think that's what everybody else is doing. Everybody else is more immature or prideful or um, trying to manipulate people or control people. It's like shadowy emperor. And they don't get that some people in the world, they're not trying to do that. And they have no interest in wanting to do that. But that can be shadowy energy. It's kind of more living from their ego. They have their truth, and they could think that love is just an illusion that people do to try to manipulate and control people. Shadowy Leo energy. and and maybe because that's the kind of people they grew up with or something, but other people have no interest in trying to manipulate and control people, but they could have a really hard time believing that. And so even if they meet people who they could be in a relationship with that are just and fair and loving and working together with them, they could be kind of quite defensive to those people because they just think those people, that's what they use to try to manipulate and control people. They might use other things to try to manipulate and control people. And there are people in the world who try to use their like emotional nature or their sexual nature or their worldly nature, their status, their image, their money, their charms, their whatever. I mean, people can use anything they want to try to manipulate people. But hopefully, as we go through life and we come in contact with all these different people in the world, hopefully we learn some lessons along the way and we're not as naive and gullible as we used to be. And we learn those lessons. And some of them can be more painful and hurtful than others. And it can take time. We could move away. The Eight of Wands can be about moving away. We could move away from some people and stand up for our truth of what we think is just and fair. And I'm not going to keep staying in relationships with people who seem to be juggling the truth, or people who seem bossy or controlling, or people who aren't willing to be a student of life, aren't willing to be more inspired to take action from love. I'm going to move away from those people. Well, we can always move away from people, but then it can take time emotionally to work through that before we're maybe ready to emotionally, and that can definitely talk about Scorpio. Scorpio is fixed sign energy. Leo is fixed sign energy. That we get involved in things and then for the people who do authentically emotionally invest themselves in people, they got themselves emotionally invested in those people. And then it can take time to work through just getting out of our ego about it and accepting the truth of it. They're motivated and inspired by what they're motivated by. They have their ways of behaving or conducting themselves that they think are just and fair. I might disagree with that. I might find them to be more superficial and shallow. I might find them to be more prideful or egotistical or manipulative. I might feel like they haven't worked through some issues from their past that affect how they interact with people. And until they work through those issues, again, if they aren't willing to deal with the truth of some issues that happened in their life and see how that in turn impacts how they interact with people in their current life, it's going to keep impacting their relationships. But they could keep thinking, no, 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 I don't have to work through that. Kind of in their pride and ego. I can just kind of ignore that and move forward in new relationships. It's like you can, but if you haven't worked through that, it kind of could stop you from investing in taking action more from love. And that can kind of be Scorpio energy, which Scorpio can kind of be this things that we keep buried beneath the surface, and sometimes this black and white thinking. And some people don't want to see the truth about themselves. Maybe they were, we'd all have to temper our ego to be willing to say, in my life, if I look back through my life from the time I was 5 years old and on, have I been more immature? Have I been more defensive? Have I been caught up in illusions of things? Have I invested in things that weren't in my best interest that I thought for sure was a good idea? Am I willing to admit that I make mistakes? Am I willing to be a student of life? Am I willing to see that not everybody's the same? That some people I've dealt with were kind of more manipulative or bossy or controlling, and that some people in my life weren't, you know? And to be willing to see the difference, again, that everybody has had the opportunity, kind of in the world card, to be inspired within themselves by love. And we've been in relationships with people who are not inspired by love, and they kind of think it should be more about them. And it's kind of like, it sometimes makes me think of like communist China, where, you make the leader of the country becomes like people's god in a way, and then they're not supposed to believe in any higher truth or justice. And some people want us to view them like that in our life. You should be in a relationship with me. This could look good, or I think I look good, or for some reason it looks maybe good by worldly standards. You shouldn't love and believe in yourself to like keep growing and maturing yourself because they don't want to keep growing and maturing themselves. And so then they want to be in relationships with people who are more codependent on them, male or female, and they kind of want to be indulged, adult or child or elderly person. you know, Anybody in the world can be that kind of person. Some of them wear very good false masks. I'm not bossy. I'm not controlling. I'm not prideful. I'm not more materialistically motivated. I'm not more about myself. But people who get in more involved relationships with them over time kind of see through the illusion. And the relationship works out well so long as the other people buy into the illusion. But if those people do some work within themselves to free themselves from some things that used to manipulate them, where in the Two of Pentacles they pick up kind of their investment in an old way of thinking or believing or past pain and heartbreak, and they've kind of become independent of some way of thinking or feeling or viewing themselves or viewing the world, they shed kind of an old layer of themselves because they worked through it. They were inspired within themselves to love themselves, to get the justice they deserve. They worked through some issues, and then they come out the other side more free to be inspired within themselves, to get the justice they deserve, to love themselves, because those things aren't manipulating them as much as it did before, whatever it was. They closed out a cycle. They, in turn, try to inspire other people in their life to move forward with them in that way. But those people would have to do that same work within themselves about some issues from their past that still manipulate them, that could still have them kind of in their ego, or their fear, or their defensiveness, or these ways of viewing life or relationships of kind of thinking it should be more about you, or thinking they should be able to be kind of more controlling and manipulative in a relationship, or it should be more about these reasons of the world while we're in a relationship. And for some of the relationships in their earth sign energy, they're not willing, not inspired by the truth and love. And, if you're going to be in a relationship with people, you should treat other people the way you like to be treated, in a just and fair way. Not just to try to control and manipulate them, but because you love them. And some people want to be in friendships with people, but I don't really want to. I might try to act more just and fair with you, but again, this defensiveness to love and being hurt. And some people want to be in relationships and marriages with people, but in shadowy fire sign, that can be, I just want to indulge and enjoy myself in the relationship? Could I act in a just and fair way and temper my ego and, put on a good show? That's like shadowy energy. Yeah, but it won't ever be authentically inspired by love. And that's when some people are like, that isn't what I wanted to manifest in the world. Because again, Gemini is about kind of what our truth is and what we love and what we want to manifest. And we realize that some of the people in our life, again, can create the illusion of being inspired to work together with people cooperatively in a just and fair way. But again, it's just more for how it benefits them. And you feel probably kind of manipulated in the relationship. And, the more immature they are, the more bossy or controlling they are, it's harder and harder for them to temper their ego in that way. And they start, because it's not the truth of who they are. And it's always kind of like maybe trying to push the limits. Well, can I do this? Can I do this? Will you let me get away with this? And it's just like, just go do that with someone else. If it is that hard for you to grow up and quit being more immature, I wish you peace. You go do that with someone else. And then people who want to be in a relationship, but they really don't want to do love, but yet they could want to be in relationships with people who are loving. I want you to love me, but I don't want to come out behind my ego to be loving to you. That works for me. And you love me, right? So, hey, I think that's just and fair. But the high vibe people aren't in relationship with people who in turn are authentically wanting to be in a relationship with them from love. So high vibe people are cutting out people out of their life and distancing themselves, have probably already had some people in their life that they have tried to have a more mature, emotionally mature relationship, more balanced relationship with. And some of those other people are like, no, how dare you want me to temper my ego? How dare you not be willing to indulge me? Because they have this illusion that people should indulge them. Because in their own mind, they indulge themselves, so they think it's just and fair, and other people should think it's just and fair too. And so with some of those people, you've picked up your investment in them, and you could have no interest in having any new beginning with those people, kind of closed out a cycle until those people at some future date in time communicate to you the truth. And if you think they've told you the truth, and of course that would depend on who it is, we can all have people in our life that more like family, like adult children, brother, sister, mom, or dad, that we would kind of like to, and we can still kind of be in relationship with them, but maybe not as much as we had been at one time, you know. And for sometimes with people like that, we know we have differences in our life and what we like to do. And I mean, not everybody is like best friends, like with their brother or sister, right? You live your life, I live my life, but we'd still like to be in each other's world, you know? Um, and we can accept that we have differences with a lot of people in the world. But if there was significant people in our life other than our family, I mean, even with our family, we can do this. But if it's other people in our life, you know, I guess everybody would have to decide. But I would think if anybody at some future point in time communicated with you, you would really have to feel like they are telling the truth, not an illusion. And that people have grown up and matured themselves. Well, in that case, then there's people in our life that we would maybe be willing to reconcile with. And as some of you have been moving forward after you got out of some situations, you could have communicated your truth to some people. Some of those people said, nope, Because at any point in time in our life with free will, we kind of invested more time and energy effort into getting to be in friendships or romantic relationships with these people versus those people. Could have gotten out of some friendships or relationships to get in friendships or relationships with other people. And some people, as they move forward in their life, they're like, um, I wish you peace and love, but I kind of closed out that cycle in my life, and I don't kind of feel that way anymore. If it probably was just friendship, people, we can be loving and encouraging to people and like, oh, I'm glad that you worked through that. And yeah, that was a difficult time. And yeah, I was maybe hurt and I didn't understand why you were doing that. And, some people, because everybody's kind of grown up, kind of brings peace and harmony to the world, more balance to the world. But the world and the justice system in the world at a higher order is trying to bring balance in the world, and it is trying to get people to see the truth, deal with the truth, get out of their ego. Getting in these more mismatched relationship is kind of like two puzzle pieces trying to fit together, but they don't quite fit together, but people try to force them to fit together. And have some hope and faith and belief in yourself. High vibe energy, represented by God at the big picture, wants people to be in relationships that are just and fair and aligned with their truth. If people have free will, if people want to make their life more about things of the world, then go get in relationships with people who are more caught up in making their life more about those things of the world. But it's not just and fair for people who know that their truth is different to try to manipulate people and create an illusion about the truth of who they are when they know that's not their truth. Hoping if they get those people to move forward and invest in them, that then kind of they've got them trapped. Well, God will keep trying to do things to get people to see the truth and to get them to pick up their investment in those things, those vices, those habits, those patterns, those people, and to love and believe in themselves enough to stand up for their truth. But we've all got free will, and some people are like, no, I'm sure they'll change. And they have the free will to do that. But eventually, it's kind of like God's going to work with the people who, God's always there. That energy is always there. But God can only work with the people who are willing to work with God at any given moment. So who wants to move forward in a more balanced way, in a more just and fair way, in a more loving, hopeful, believing way? Because God wants to give birth to something new and close out an old cycle. But if everybody keeps repeating old patterns, we're never going to give birth to something new. And as people listen to their intuition and move forward, there's going to be other people in the world that you don't even know that are also going to move forward in that way. So listen to your intuition when people aren't working with you cooperatively. If they probably wanted to work with you more cooperatively from love, they probably would, but they don't. So wish them peace. Get out of your ego. We don't know what everybody is dealing with. And until they want to tell us, we don't know. And we pick up our investment and are a good leader in our own life, that I'm not going to invest in people who kind of wear a false mask, don't work with me cooperatively. People who aren't trying to manipulate me would be willing to reveal the truth and speak the truth and be more just and fair. Shadowy people do hurtful or unjust or unkind things to try to confuse us about the truth in an attempt to try to manipulate us. What's coming out for some people who harness some high vibe Gemini that they might not see coming? The Page of Pentacles. Why? Because of the Page of Wands. So you kind of have that hopeful believing spirit, and you closed out a cycle. After, here we have the 8. to get to the one wand, you had to close out the 10 of wands. And you were inspired within yourself out of love for yourself that to stand up for yourself. No more illusions, no more immaturity. And so then if people kept like, nope, I'm not gonna, that's not my truth, that's not what I want to do. It's like, okay, I get out of my ego about it, I accept the truth of it, I'm picking up my investment in that, and I'm taking this action to close out this cycle to go have this new beginning in the Page of Wands, and then the Page of Pentacles is closing out a cycle in the Ten of Pentacles. That could be a phase of life. It could have been in some type of relationship, family, friendship dynamic. You'd kind of learned everything you needed to learn there. And you could, again, been in relationships with people who maybe thought because you're a loving person that you'd kind of keep indulging them in kind of more immature, defensive, or something behavior. And it's like, I can love you and keep my distance from you. I can have love for people and I don't want to spend more time with them because they've already shown me the truth of how they like to interact in a relationship, and so, or a workplace. And so it's detaching from that to have this new beginning. And so in all three of your fire signs, and probably all three of your, well, the Emperor is all four. In your emotional nature, your Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio, your fire sign, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, your air sign, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. And what is the last one? Oh, I don't know that I mentioned the Pentacles, but in your Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus, it's just completely seeing with some people your philosophy of life is different, what kind of drives and motivates you, what your truth is, what your long-term goals are, the perspective from how you view life, what you view as victorious and successful in the world, if you're more about yourself, more about the world, looking at life versus looking at life from a higher perspective, having more hope and faith and belief and love. You just realize with some people in your life, you are not on the same page. And so you are moving forward to take action and invest more time, energy, and effort into the people in your world, or to go try to find those people in the world who are more aligned with your truth, who aren't more immature, who aren't more codependent, who don't want to be in more codependent relationships, who have that more hopeful, believing spirit. And I think as you move forward, other people, there's always going to be more immature, shadowy people who kind of want to be the next person to indulge in a relationship with you. And I think you'll be willing to get to know people, but you'll do this work to maintain balance within yourself, to get to know people and kind of get a feel for who seems to have worked through some issues from the past, who seems to be a little more defensive, who seems to wear a false mask, who seems to want to juggle the truth, who seems to be more immature, and who seems to know how to work together with people cooperatively in a more emotionally mature way. And those are the people you're more going to invest your time, energy, and effort into. You closed out a cycle, you get to go on to the next level of the video game of life. And while you're moving on, facing challenges and obstacles, and Sagittarius is about learning lessons, going on that new adventure, picking up your investment in old ways of living life, reviewing life, to go to that next level. And just like in a video game, it can be a little scary and it can be a little sad that we're having to leave some people behind, but we offered truth and love to people to come with us, and some of those people said, no, that's not my truth. It's like, okay. And you're going to move forward with other people who want to go to that next phase of life, facing new obstacles and new challenges instead of repeating an old pattern. Maybe tempering your ego and your fear and being more inspired to connect in with your emotions and your intuition to inspire you, instead of, before, when you thought you were so smart and you were going to do it your way. It's tempering your ego that I have my creative, inspired, intuitive nature. That was a gift that was given to me. I'm going to use that gift to help me navigate in this world. And I have my own unique talent, skills, and interests that I'm going to invest in to as I move forward, but take action more from a place of love than sadness or ego or defensiveness or immaturity. And I think as other people see you doing that, there's going to be other high vibe people who want to be in a relationship with you, because they've also been in relationships with people who are repeating some of these old patterns, and they don't want to do that either. What's coming out for people who might harness, though, a more worldly, shadowy Gemini energy, who just got to go on a journey of learning some lessons that other people haven't learned or that other people have learned, which could be seeing through the illusions of the world, trying to control things and people in their life, maybe learn to temper their ego, quit indulging themselves in maybe more immature ways of being, quit trying to change other people also. High vibe energy is willing to be more independent. And we can all have people in our life that we would like to have move forward with us, But sometimes we can have people in our life that are like, no, if you go do that, I'm not coming with. And sometimes we're in a relationship with people and they have people in their life, and the people in their life are like, no, if you go do life like that, that's different than how I do life. And, kind of like, we wouldn't invest in you anymore. And, people have to work through that to be more independent, stand up for themselves and their truth. And some people aren't ready to become independent of people and kind of live their truth. That's kind of like high vibe Leo. What's coming up for the shadowy people they don't see coming? The Queen of Swords. Why? Because of the Lover's card. Well, so the Lover's card is Gemini energy. Well, if we're not willing to learn lessons in life and temper our ego, they'll either get in relationships with other people who in their Gemini love being defensive or immature, kind of on the same page as them, which would be a just and fair relationship. Just being in relationships with people who are more like themselves, and they could all be defensive to learning lessons. If they like to be more about the world, let's get in a relationship, stay in the relationship more for these worldly reasons, because we're defensive to love. Well, that would be a just and fair relationship. They're both defensive, or all of them kind of defensive to doing love. It looks like love, it quacks like love, but it's not really love because they don't do love, you know? And by worldly standards, it could look like very victorious and successful, with the King of Swords, the Emperor, the King of Cups, the Strength card, which again also represented by the Star card. People can look very victorious and successful in the world. They just might not be people who have that more hopeful, believing spirit. Let's get in a relationship. Let's stay in this job, this friendship, this relationship, marriage, because it makes us look like a shining star in the world, and that's the most important thing. And hopefully people get along well enough, to make it worthwhile. It's just that they weren't willing to invest in love. Everybody just kind of wears a false mask. I mean, I kind of think, there could be a part of them that wishes they were more open to love, but they're not. So they might kind of feel betrayed, because I think even shadowy people, it's like they want other people to love them, but they want to be defensive to doing a deep, meaningful relationship. So they want other people, it's like I want to be shadowy and I want you to be loving and I want you to indulge me in my defensiveness or my immaturity, right? And they could be mad that the people in the world who harness this energy in a high vibe way, high vibe Aquarius, high vibe Gemini, high vibe, all these other things, those people aren't willing to stay in a relationship just because it looks good by these worldly standards. If it's not really motivated and inspired by love, that's not what those people were trying to manifest. And they are willing to quit investing in those things or people to go try to manifest what they want to manifest, aligned with their truth. And so they can always be mad that loving people won't indulge them. It's like the devil mad that God won't indulge them, you know, in their more immature ways of being. And if they keep being defensive to love, again, they'll ultimately be surrounded. The people who would probably more be willing to stay in a relationship with them and keep staying in a relationship with them could be other people that are just like them. This looks just and fair by worldly standards. I don't want to do love. I've been hurt before, but I want to be in a relationship. For whatever reason, I want to be in a relationship. Good for my ego or image, or I don't know, something like that. Look like I've moved on. Look like I have what other people have in the world. It's just not really because of love. It's more, and for some really shadowy people, sometimes people can move forward in another relationship because they were trying to manipulate someone else and they're moving forward in a new relationship that's kind of an illusion because they want someone to be sad and they're trying to manipulate that person and hoping that person will kind of put an end to loving and believing in themselves because they're hurt that these other people seem to be, just getting in another relationship instead of working with them in a just and fair way. What they wanted was for other people to give up their dreams of love and settle for being in illusion with them. But I don't think the more high vibe people are going to do that. Their manipulation didn't work. And they'll probably be mad because, their manipulation, people manipulate them, the world manipulates them, their ego manipulates them, their worldly nature, their immature nature, their codependent nature. They have all sorts of things that manipulate them, and they don't stand up for themselves and free themselves. So they didn't think other people would, but other people aren't manipulated to the same degree that they are. And of course, they think they're probably very smart, and they could be very smart people. But they haven't learned that love, if you're going to work together with people, don't try to be bossy and controlling and manipulative or get out of being full of yourself and thinking you should be God in people's lives. It's like, and they probably have people in their life that they really defer to, that they are unwilling to stand up to. And then they want the people they're in relationship with to let those things or those people manipulate them too. And they could be going through another round of friends or family members that are like, I've tried to be loving and encouraging to you, but you seem to keep doing this. And eventually people are like, you know what? You do you. And I'm going to go do me. It's like the devil being mad that loving people don't want to keep staying in a relationship with them. And the devil's like, but look, I have all these things of the world. You could invest in these things. You'll be happy. It's like, but where's the love? Oh, well, I'm really competing with God, but I'll give you all these things of the world. Go indulge in these things. You'll be happy, or put in work and effort, make it all about money and all that. You'll be happy. And it's like, what about love? It's like, well, no. No, you got to sacrifice that. You got to put an end to that. You have to make your life about conforming to the world. You can't go live your more authentic life. You can't be more independent. You have to sell your soul. And some people did, and some people are, and some people will, and other people aren't. So, there you go, Gemini. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.